I never imagined that moving to a small, almost forgotten town could turn into the kind of nightmare that seeps into your very soul. The town itself seemed to exist outside of time, a place where the streets were narrow, the houses old and wooden, and the air carried a faint, lingering scent of decay, dampness, and old smoke. It was quiet, too quiet. I came here to escape the noise of the city, the pressures of work, the constant hum of other people, and most of all, myself. I wanted peace. At first, it seemed I had found it. The house I rented seemed ordinary at first glance, a two-story wooden structure with peeling paint, creaking floorboards, and an attic accessible by a narrow, rickety ladder. Something about that attic unsettled me from the start. I never opened the door, and yet I constantly felt its presence looming. I would tell myself it was just the imagination running wild, but deep down, a part of me knew that attic was hiding something I was not meant to see. The first week passed uneventfully. I unpacked boxes, arranged furniture, and tried to settle into the quiet. But almost immediately I began to notice strange things. Footsteps in the attic when I was alone, soft scuffing sounds that stopped as soon as I got near. I told myself it was just the house settling, the wood expanding and contracting with the night chill. But the feeling of being watched never left me. By the second week, the disturbances became harder to ignore. One night, I woke to a whisper, my name, barely audible, coming from somewhere above me. My heart raced as I told myself it was a dream. But then it came again, closer this time, clearer. I pressed my pillow to my ears, trying to block it out, but it morphed into something worse, a soft, childish laugh, light and innocent, yet filled with something darker, something malevolent. I searched the house in the morning. Nothing, not a single thing out of place. I tried to convince myself I was imagining it. Stress, isolation, surely that was the cause. But then I noticed it. A small scratch on the attic door. I had never touched that door, and I couldn't have done it in my sleep. Sleep became impossible. I started hearing whispers at all hours, sometimes while lying on the couch, sometimes in the kitchen. Phones began to ring at night, calls from unknown numbers, silent on the other end, except for that laugh, that whisper. I began documenting everything, keeping a journal, taking notes on every sound, every fleeting shadow, every chill that ran down my spine. Then came the dreams, horrific, unrelenting. In these dreams, I saw myself walking through the house, but the house was wrong. The walls were blackened with mold, the floor covered in footprints that weren't mine, leading always to the attic. At the top of the ladder sat a figure, gray and faceless. I could feel its gaze, cold and penetrating, and I could hear the laugh, echoing endlessly in the space between my ears. By the fourth week, I began leaving the attic door open. Something inside me demanded I confront it, to face whatever awaited there. One night, I climbed the ladder. The attic was empty, or so I thought. Darkness filled the room like a thick living fog. Then, a whisper. "You know I'm here." I ran. I left the house and drove to the nearest city, thinking I was finally free. But freedom was an illusion. A message appeared on my phone. "He's waiting for you, and you must return." Panic overtook me. I had not used my phone. The message could not have existed. I tried hiding, moving from place to place, yet the feeling of presence only intensified. Shadows lingered in the corners of my vision, the whispering laugh following me through crowded streets, through cafes, through every place I tried to find solace. And then, one morning, I woke up, in my old house. The attic door was open. The gray figure sat at the top of the ladder, reaching out toward me. My body froze. My mind screamed to move, to run, but I was paralyzed. The figure's faceless head tilted, and I heard the whisper, closer than ever, "Now you are here forever. Welcome home." The darkness swallowed me, and I understood. I would never leave this place. I awoke, or thought I awoke, in the same room, but something was wrong. The air was heavier, thick with a smell I couldn't name, a mix of wet earth, decay, and something acrid that made my eyes water. The house had changed. The walls had darkened, more mold creeping along the corners. The floorboards groaned as if sighing under the weight of unseen footsteps. I knew I wasn't imagining it. I tried to move, to run, but my body refused. The shadow at the attic lingered in the corner of my vision. It didn't move like a normal being. It simply existed, as if the light itself recoiled from it. I realized then that the house was alive, or perhaps that something inside it was. Something patient. Something that had been waiting for me to finally notice. Hours, or was it days, passed. Time lost all meaning. I could feel it, creeping, pressing, bending around me. Every corner I turned, every hallway I crossed, seemed longer than before. The ceilings lowered when I looked away, rose when I dared glance back. The whispering followed, but now it had changed. Not just my name, it knew my fears, my regrets. "You can't leave," it murmured. "You shouldn't have come." I found myself back in the living room, staring at the front door. It had vanished, or perhaps it had never existed. The windows were nothing but black mirrors, reflecting an endless void. My phone lay on the table. A message awaited. "Look closer." I picked it up. The screen showed me images I didn't recognize, rooms I had never seen, objects I didn't own, and worst of all, me. I was there, standing in the shadows, staring back at myself. Only my eyes. They were wrong. Empty, hollow. A reflection of something else entirely. I screamed, but the sound bounced back at me, distorted, mocking. That laugh, always that laugh, higher, sharper, more precise, filled every corner of the house. Then I saw them. Small figures, pale, faceless children, crawling along the walls, ceiling, sometimes even through the floorboards. Their movements were jerky, unnatural, but eerily deliberate. They watched me, always. I fled up the stairs, hoping the attic would offer answers, or an end. The ladder creaked under my weight, each step echoing like a gunshot in the suffocating silence. And then I saw it. The figure, larger now, more defined, though still faceless. It stood at the far end of the attic, surrounded by darkness that seemed to pulse like a living thing. "Come closer," it whispered. I couldn't. My legs refused to obey. My mind screamed to run, to escape, to wake up from this endless nightmare, but I knew. Deep down, I already belonged here. I had always been here. The house hadn't trapped me, I had invited it in. My curiosity, my loneliness, my desire to escape the real world. It had been waiting for me to crack, to fall into the void willingly. The attic seemed to stretch into infinity. I could see versions of myself, endless reflections trapped in corners, behind furniture, in the shadows. They screamed silently, their mouths moving, but no sound escaping. Some begged me, others cursed me. All of them watched me. And then I saw something I will never forget. A version of me smiling at the darkness, welcoming it, and it whispered, "You will join us." I tried to look away, but my eyes were drawn. The figure reached out and I felt a cold, creeping sensation running up my arms, into my chest. Panic surged, and yet I felt something else, a perverse sense of calm, a recognition. I wasn't fighting anymore. I had no choice. The darkness engulfed me. The whispers became a chorus, not mocking, not laughing, just patient, endless, eternal. I was pulled into it, and the house itself seemed to inhale, swallowing me whole. I realized then, the house was not just a building. It was a living entity, feeding on the curiosity and fear of those who entered it. And now, it had me. I cannot say how long I have been here. Time has no meaning. I hear new whispers now, and sometimes I catch glimpses of other figures, humans, children, souls, trapped, wandering the endless hallways and rooms. I am one of them. And the childlike laughter, oh, it never stops. If anyone ever finds this story, know this. The house waits. It watches. It knows when you are alone, when you are curious. And it will call to you in whispers, in laughter, in shadows. Do not answer, do not enter, because once you do, you belong to it. Forever. I don't remember the moment when I stopped searching for an exit. Perhaps it didn't happen all at once. Perhaps the house patiently waited for me to surrender. There was no sudden break, only the slow erosion of hope, piece by piece. I wandered through corridors that changed every time I blinked. Doors led nowhere. Stairs ended at ceilings. Rooms where the air was so thick it felt like it could be cut with a knife. Sometimes I returned to places I had been before, but the rooms looked different. Older, decayed, as if they had lived decades without me. The whispering no longer followed constantly. It came in waves, sometimes silence, so deep it rang in my ears. And then suddenly, voices, many voices. They didn't scream. They spoke calmly, as if sharing memories. I began to make out the words. I thought I could leave too. It always seems empty at first. Do not look in the mirrors. Mirrors. I didn't understand at first that there were more mirrors in the house. They appeared where they hadn't existed. At the end of hallways, on stair landings, even on the ceiling. The reflections in them didn't always mimic my movements. Sometimes they lagged. Sometimes they smiled when I did not. One day I stopped in front of a bathroom mirror. The light flickered. My reflection looked exhausted, eyes sunken, skin gray. But something was wrong. When I raised my hand, the reflection remained still. It was watching me. "You've lasted long," it said. Its lips moved slowly, as if the words were struggling through water. "Not everyone makes it this far." I stepped back, but the mirror cracked, the fractures spreading like a spider web. From each crack, eyes stared. Dozens, hundreds. I ran. The house reacted. Walls narrowed, floors tilted, forcing me to stumble. Somewhere deep inside, I heard the same childlike laugh. It was different now. Some voices cried, some rejoiced. I found myself in a room I had never seen before. It was large, nearly empty. In the center, an old table. On it lay notebooks, my handwriting. I opened one. It was my journal. But the entries went beyond the point I remembered. Page after page described things I had not yet experienced. My thoughts, my fears, my unraveling. On the last page, only one sentence. Today I realized the door was never locked. And then I remembered. Not immediately. Memories returned painfully, in fragments. The move, the house. But something didn't fit. I remembered signing the lease. I remembered the owner's name. I had never seen his face. I remembered the first night. Not the whisper, not the laughter. The moment before it. The instant when I stood at the bottom of the stairs, looking at the attic door. I opened it myself. The house did not call me. It did not pull me in. It simply waited. And I wanted something to be there. I wanted the silence to have meaning. I wanted loneliness to take shape. The figure appeared beside me, not suddenly. It simply was there, as if it had always stood behind me. "You created us," it whispered. "We only gave you what you sought." I sank to the floor. There was no more resistance, no more anger, only emptiness and a twisted clarity. "And the others?" I asked. "The voices, the children." The figure tilted its head. They were seeking too. I saw them, in the shadows, in the walls. People who had entered here for different reasons. Escape, curiosity, despair. The house didn't take them by force. It let them remain. "Now you are part of the silence," it said. "Now you too can wait." I no longer felt fear as the darkness began to engulf me again. I felt calm, and at the same time, terrible clarity. Because somewhere out there, in the real world, someone else was already reading a "for rent" sign. A small town, a quiet house, a very tempting price. And I knew, when they enter, I will be the one to whisper first. I no longer distinguished between days and nights. Time collapsed into a single endless moment where silence felt heavier than concrete and laughter echoed from every direction. The house knew me better than I knew myself. It knew my fears, my hopes, my desires. It read my thoughts even when I tried to hide them from myself. And then I heard a new sound, soft, quiet, almost lost among the constant whispers and laughter. Footsteps, human footsteps. Someone was climbing the stairs. Someone was approaching the door. I knew he had arrived. Someone new, someone alive, someone who didn't know yet. The house always waits for people like him. I stood up. Every movement felt impossibly heavy. Each step echoed inside my consciousness like a gunshot. When I reached the threshold, I saw him. An ordinary person, with ordinary fear in his eyes, standing at the doorway. He looked at me, and in his gaze I recognized what I once felt myself: curiosity, the kind that always demands a price. I opened my mouth, but no real words came out, only a whisper, the same childlike cold whisper that had haunted me for so long. "Welcome home?" He nodded, he smiled, and he took his first step inside the house. I felt the darkness wrap around me again, but this time it was different. This time I wasn't alone. My hands reached into the emptiness, and I finally understood. I had become part of this place. Not by force. I had given myself. I was now the guide for the next one, and so it continues. The house always waits. It is never empty. It knows who will enter, and it gives them exactly what they are searching for. Peace that slowly turns into a trap. I can no longer escape. I don't want to. I wait, and I listen as someone else begins to climb the stairs. The childlike laughter echoed around me, but now it was mine. Because now I am part of the silence, and I am waiting for the next one.